哦，那怎么没出来呢？啊，出来了，这是这个吗？对，那没声音呢。
Okay. All right, everyone. Hello and welcome to GitHub 101. In this workshop, we will be going over how to host your first website on GitHub Pages for free. So first thing that I want everyone to do is just go to github.com and log in. Once you guys have that done, can you guys just let me know in the chat so we know when we're ready to start? Yeah, you can use a new account if you want. You should see a screen similar to what I have on my screen share. So once you're there, just everyone can give a thumbs up. That would be great. Looks like we're still waiting for quite a few people. If you guys could just let me know when you guys are finished by typing a thumbs up or something in the chat, that would be great. All right, looks like 4 more. And while you guys are doing that, I'll just, if you have any questions, please feel free to let me know in the chat. I'll be watching that as I go throughout this stream. So feel free to stop me if anything's confusing, or if you have any questions in general, feel free to put them in the chat. I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability. 2 more people. Looks like we need 2 more people to sign up and get to this page, and we'll be ready to go. I'll give you guys like another minute before I go ahead. So if you guys are done, let me know. Otherwise, we will get started real soon. If anyone needs more time, please let me know. Otherwise, I'm just going to get started, if that's all right with all of you. Oh yeah, GitHub, yeah, it's basically a place where a lot of people, if almost everyone, hosts their code there. We're going to be using it, in this case, for hosting a static web page. So basically, you'll be able to upload your code, your HTML code, and GitHub will be able to generate a web page that you can share with anyone. Yep, no problem. All right, so now that we're all on GitHub, let's go ahead and create our first repository. This is a place where we'll be storing all of our code for this first website. So in the top right, you'll see a little plus button. Let's click that and hit New Repository. Once you guys are there, feel free to also give me a thumbs up. All right, looks like some of you guys are ready. So the first thing we're actually going to do for our website is just picking a name for the repository. And you can put anything you want here. And I actually have a table showing you some examples and what these names will turn into for our website. So if we take a look at our guide here, if I decide to name my repository site, it'll put https my username.github.io/site, because that's what I put here. This applies to anything else like treasure hack site, super octodoodle, whatever GitHub generates for you. The only exception to this rule is if you put your username.github.io, it will actually put it at the root. For this tutorial, let's select something other than .github.io, because you can use multiple of these, whereas your username.github.io you can only use once. So for this example, I'll just call mine GitHub 101, but once again, you can choose whatever you want. And since I picked GitHub 101, my description, this is optional, but I'll just call it like, all right, this is the code for my website and this is my username, treasurehacks.github.io/GitHub101. And once we're done with this tutorial, you can share that link with anyone that you want, and they can see your website that you've created. And once we're there, let's select public, because in this case, we need to make our repository public so that we can actually host our website. And let's add a README file, and let's leave the branch as main. So once we have all of this, can you guys give me a thumbs up so I know when to move on? right. Okay, if anyone needs more time, let me know. But from here, we'll click Create Repository on the bottom, and we should be brought to a new page that looks like this. If anyone has any questions or isn't getting here, please let me know in the chat and we'll try and figure out what's going on. All right, if we're all good, the next thing that we're going to do is actually enable GitHub Pages right away. So how we can do this is we can go to the Settings tab on the top of the page, and let's click that. So now we're in our repository settings. And what we want to do is scroll down on the left until you find the Pages tab. Once you're here, you should be able to click on the word None, and then click on Branch Main. This will make any code that you have in this repository, it will put it onto the web page at the URL that we discussed earlier. How do you get there? For GitHub Pages, you click on Settings on the top, right here, and then you scroll down on the left, you'll see a tab called Pages. And let's click Save. Can everyone give me a thumbs up when we're ready to move on from here? It should say your site is ready to be published at this. So once we download the code locally, make changes, we can actually push it to the remote. And as soon as you push it to the remote, GitHub will actually be updating this URL automatically for you. So you can just send this URL to somebody once, and any updates that you make, they'll actually be able to see it almost right away. So yeah. All right, so the next thing that we're going to do is log into GitHub locally so that you can download the code, edit the text, edit the files, make changes to your website, and actually push them to the remote, because we actually need to download the code in order to modify it. To be doing that, we're going to be using something called GitHub Desktop and Visual Studio Code. If you don't have them already, I have links in the Discord, but you can also go to desktop.github.com and download it. Or you can go to, and you can also go to code.visualstudio.com for Visual Studio Code. This is an IDE, which stands for an Integrated Development Environment, but we'll be using this to create our project because it comes with syntax highlighting, among other good stuff, with a text editor, and we're actually going to be using an extension that makes it really easy to run a local server. But more on that later. So if you guys haven't downloaded those, go ahead and do that. Otherwise, we're going to actually open GitHub Desktop. So let's open GitHub Desktop, and you should see something like this. If you don't, just go to the options. You can go to GitHub Desktop and find Preferences, or if you're on Windows, it should be in the GitHub Desktop icon menu. Yes, that's GitHub Desktop. If you're also familiar with the command line, go for it, but I'm assuming that most of you are probably new to GitHub, and that's why we're running this workshop. So yeah, that is GitHub Desktop. Yeah, I highly recommend downloading that for this tutorial because we're going to be using an extension that makes it easier to do local testing. You don't have to, and there's another way I do it on the guide, but I think it's much easier if you do that. Right, are we, if you use another IDE, yeah, that's totally fine. You don't have to use Visual Studio Code, but that's just my recommendation. Yeah, that's totally fine. If you use another IDE, that's totally fine. Once we're here, if you see the github.com, if you see some options to sign up in GitHub Desktop, can we get some thumbs up in the chat so I know when to move on? And if you think I should pick up the pace or slow down, or if it's good, feel free to let me know that as well. Okay, so let's sign into GitHub Desktop next. Under the Accounts tab, you should see something that says github.com, sign in. So we're going to click this top button that says sign in. And then we will continue with browser. And it should bring up something like this. Once you see this, let's click Open GitHub Desktop. And it should finish signing in. All right, you should be brought to something that looks like this. You might not see the exact same screen, but the pop-up should disappear. And if you don't see your profile avatar here for your GitHub account, open the preferences again, and we're going to go to Git. Make sure this is your username, and choose the email that is some random number plus your username at users.noreply.github.com. And once you have these settings, you can click Save, and that should fix that issue. So this will make it so that you guys are all logged in locally, and you can download the code you have permission to, and you can edit it, and all the commits will be attributed to your name. And while we're here, I'll just explain what a commit is. It's basically any change that you make to your code. Once you commit it, Git, which is our version control system, will actually track these changes so that you can come back to them later, see where you changed certain files. If something went wrong, you know what got changed, and you can see which specific files. All of that stuff you can access on GitHub once we get into editing the code. So again, once you guys are here, you have your profile icon showing up in the bottom left. Go ahead and give me a thumbs up. If you're also seeing something that just says clone repository or open, something like that, you're also good. So if you see that screen, yeah, to clone repository, yeah, if you see that, you're also on the right spot. I just used GitHub Desktop before, so I'm brought to a screen where I actually see one of my existing repositories. But if you see an option to create one or clone one or something like that, you're also in the right spot. So yeah. Let's get started. Yep, Kelvin, do you see some options like create repository, clone repository, anything like that? Do you see clone repository? Okay, yeah, all right, awesome. Yeah, that's exactly where we want to be right now. Okay, so I'm going to save this, and okay, so I'm going to go to clone repository. You can find this in File, Clone Repository, and you should see something like this. So you have a screen where it's asking for a URL or a username / repository. And once you guys are there, also again, feel free to give me a thumbs up. All right, awesome. And again, if you feel like I'm going too slow or too fast, have any questions, feel free to let me know. All right, so the next thing we're going to do, you actually see our repository in my browser window. It says github.com/treasurehacks, which is my username, and GitHub 101, right? You actually want to go to here and copy this. So we're going to copy github.com/treasurehacks/ our repository name. In this case, you won't have treasurehacks/GitHub 101. You'll have whatever your username is, and then a slash, and then your repository name. So once you have that, we can actually paste that in here. And you should see a URL preview here and a local path where the repository will be saved. In my case, I'm actually going to save it to a different folder, but you can actually save this wherever you want as long as you can locate it later. And once you have all of the URL, everything in here, go ahead and click clone. This will download everything from GitHub, which in this case is just our README file, and this will download it onto your local machine so you can start making changes. Okay, are we all good to go here? If you guys could just give me a couple more thumbs ups. If we're on this screen, you should see current repository, GitHub 101, or whatever you called it, current branch main, some other stuff, your profile icon, and a few options over here. Okay, looks like you guys are all here, right? So, yep, we signed in, we made sure our user was correct, and we cloned the repository. So that's how you download the code of any repository. In our case, it's empty, so we still downloaded it though. The next thing we want to do is open it in our external editor. So let me know if you guys need more time if it's not downloaded or if you guys are having trouble, but you should be able to just open in Visual Studio Code in this case. Or if you don't have an editor, you can click on Preferences, Integrations, and Visual Studio Code. In this case, I'll save it and I'll open in Visual Studio Code. Let's close that. Yeah, you can switch editors again. It doesn't have to be Visual Studio Code. I'm just going to be using it throughout this whole tutorial since that's what I use, but you can use whatever you want. Yeah, you can go to Preferences, and you can go to your GitHub Desktop Preferences, and under the Integrations tab, you can change your editor. Does that help? Oh, it only has the... Oh, you can actually open your folder in a different... You can actually open your editor first and then open the folder in that editor. That also works. So once you're on this screen, if you're using Visual Studio Code, you might get this message, do you trust the authors of the file in this folder? Well, you're creating all the code in this folder, so yeah, I trust myself. I don't know if you guys trust yourselves, but yeah. Go ahead and just click Trust. And you should see a window similar to this. Can we get a thumbs up when everyone is on this screen, when you're in your editor and you have and you can see all of the files here, which is just a README. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know if you're stuck on a certain screen. What's the .md extension? .md stands for Markdown, and a Markdown file is a file that describes, it's actually a way to quickly write HTML or some other stuff. In our case, it just tells the user more about our website. So it's a README. In this case, it's a Markdown file. So you can use stuff like a hashtag for headings. You can just search, you can actually do a quick Google search and find a lot of tricks for Markdown. For example, if I do 2 hashtags, that's heading 2, so it's smaller than heading 1. If I want to say about, then I can type some text here. If I want to bold something, I can do link, and if I want to bold it, I can do that, and then include a link if I want. To link something, you can put text and then link. Yeah, Markdown is actually it is actually its own language, and it was made to simplify writing content for the web, I believe. But in this case, it's just going to be our README for our website, and we're not going to code our website in Markdown, although you actually can. But yeah. Okay, if we have any questions, explain branches in this workshop. Unfortunately, I'm not going to talk about branches in this workshop because I don't think we have the time for it. But yeah, branches, basically it's one of the things with collaboration. I'm working on a guide I'll share with you guys in the Discord later. But branches, are we supposed to open something here? I just opened the README file by clicking on it, but let's actually get started with our first page. Let's create a new file, and let's call it index.html. Yeah, Anthony. So basically a branch, you can create a branch from main, and you'll basically get a working copy of your code, so you can experiment with changes and all of that stuff. More details in GitHub 201. We'll have a Q&A session on that tomorrow. Yeah, once you have index.html like I do here, go ahead and give me a thumbs up so we know when to move on. Yeah, Anthony, no problem. All right, awesome. All right, let's just quickly create a skeleton of our web page. Type in exclamation mark, enter. And you should get a skeleton that looks something like what I have on my screen. Do we have to write it, or can we just select the language? I'm not sure what you mean by that, Kelvin. Oh, I actually created index.html as the file name. I suggest you do that too, because that's how we're going to be, yeah, that's what we're going to be doing for our website. Yeah. How do you comment in HTML? Okay, I'll just demonstrate that for you while I'm writing the content. So I'm just going to add a quick header to our page. And I'll add some filler text. Okay, how do you comment? Yeah, okay, so if I want to say that this is some filler text, I can do command or control slash, or you can type this, which is like that. And then you can type anything in here. This is a comment in HTML. And I'll go ahead and save this. So I'm going to have this over here, and I'm actually going to open I'm actually going to open this file in my browser so you can find it in a file explorer. And in this case, I'll click index.html. And you'll see that the content you just wrote is right here. Let's bring this here. So you should see your file and the code for it. Let me know when you guys are there so I can move on again. Yeah. So in this case, I can be editing stuff on the left, and then when I'm ready, I can reload it in my browser. Yep, you can write down any block of text. I'm not going to be teaching much about HTML because my friend Ethan Kosaki, he will be teaching the beginner to web design workshop, but I'm teaching you how to actually host this website on GitHub, so you have a link that you can share with anyone else. But the basic elements that I'll be using, just some headings, paragraphs, which is P, and image tags. In which case, I actually copied an image file. I'm going to add it to this folder, which is GitHub 101. This is the folder with all my files. I'll paste it here. And I'll have this. This is the Treasure Hacks logo, and you should see it appear in your editor as well. If you guys want to download an image or add something like that, I'll just add a little bit more content while you guys are getting to this point. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. But otherwise, once we have some code and you have a web page, feel free to let me know by giving me a thumbs up in the chat. So does everyone have some type of HTML document here, and are they able to open it? Are you guys able to open it in your web browser? Or if you guys are stuck, could you do you have any questions that I can answer that will help you get to here? What are you trying to open? Is it just the... Oh, okay, right now I'm actually just going to my file browser and I'm double clicking the HTML file. You can see some basic HTML just written this way, right? All right, is everyone ready to move on by any chance? Could we get some thumbs up in the chat, or do you guys need more time to do this? Got a couple thumbs up. Is everyone else also there, or do we need more time to get some code in and open the web page? How do you get text to appear? I just wrote stuff in the editor over here. So in this case, all of your content will be within the body tags. So if you go to here, you can see here's the code. Inside the body tags, you can either just write text, or in my case, I added a heading inside H1s and paragraphs and that kind of stuff. Yeah, if you're adding stuff in the head or outside the HTML, it might not appear on the screen. And once you make changes here, go ahead and hit the reload button on your browser and you should be able to see those. Yes, Anthony, that's a good point. If you haven't saved it, save the file, Control S, and then reload the web page, of course. Once we get a couple more thumbs up, I'll move on. Awesome. Okay. You think you have the code and you have a web page that shows what your code looks like, something similar? All right, awesome. Okay, looks like we're ready to move on then. All right. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do, so you can edit the code, do whatever you want, and you can actually see my editor is actually tracking all of the changes we make. Since we added 2 files, you can see them in green, and you can see that the README is in yellow or orange because I changed the contents of it. So now that we've made these changes, now this is where GitHub Desktop comes back in. So I'm going to open this, and you should be able to see all of the files you just changed. So I have an image here. I added my index.html file, which I'm going to add a new line to, but you don't have to do that. So index file, my logo, and some updates to the README. So the way we're going to track these changes and push them to our website, we are going to give this a summary. So I'm going to call this add homepage. And we are going to hit commit to main. So once you see something like this, go ahead and give me a thumbs up in the chat so we know when to move on. Okay. Okay, so yeah, okay, so you can see our editor. Actually, you should, sorry. Once you see the changes showing up in your editor, you can go to GitHub Desktop again. We downloaded this when we first cloned the code to our local machine. And then you should see some files over here. It should say 3 changed files or however many you changed, right? Then give it a summary. I called it add homepage. This can be whatever you want. And if you want a longer description, go for it. And then you click the commit to main. This will essentially create a copy of the code. It'll create a record of your changes. So once you have that and you have the screen that looks like what I have, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. All right, awesome. And here's where the magic happens. Let's push this to origin. And what this does is it copies the changes you've just made, the record you just made. It copies it to GitHub servers, and we will actually already have a basic web page that you can load. So I'm going to go back to GitHub Pages. So I'm still in the settings for it, but you can just go to your username.github.io/ and the repository name. So I'm going to open this in a new tab, and you can see the web page is right here. So unfortunately, this isn't perfect, but we do have some sort of a web page, and I think that's really cool. So anything that you change in here, you make your changes in your editor. You go to GitHub Desktop. You should see these changes, and then commit, and push to origin, and you'll see your web page being updated within a minute, or within a couple minutes, depending on how fast GitHub decides to update your website. So there's a couple more things we need to go over in this workshop, especially considering our local development isn't where it should be. But yeah, I'll get to that once everyone is able to go to their username.github.io/repository name. Once we're there, this time could we have all of you guys put the link to your web page in the chat? So in my case, I'll copy this. It should be username.github.io/repo name. So once you guys have that, can you put that in the chat so we can actually see the website? Whoops, I accidentally opened it 4 times. Yep, so I see this one. Unsure if GitHub Desktop is able to see my file. Did you save your file? Unsure. Max, when I go to my website, it shows my README file. I don't think you titled your HTML file. Did you call it index.html? And Kelvin, so if you click on GitHub Desktop, does it not show the changed files? I called it index.html. Max, can you send me a link? Can you send me your GitHub Pages link so I can see the code? This is my website. I hope you enjoyed. Cool. Brian's website. All right. Max. Oh, okay. Let's see yours. So you added this one. Okay, so, oh yeah, yours isn't, you copied my username, but if you go to your username, so bmk.github.io/github101, then this is your webpage, right? Anthony, awesome. Yeah, you should see a little check mark next to the code. So like if I go to my code, you should see a little check mark next to the timestamp. Once you see that, you know your page is built and you can reload it. Check some of your websites. Oops, I already saw that. Let me get the chat back. Right, Anthony, go ahead and reload. Is everyone else good? Have we gotten you to see the web page on GitHub? Andy, did you call it? Okay, you did call it index.html. Can I have a link to your website? Okay, I see it. Yeah, you might have to reload it, or if it's being stuck, you can right-click, inspect, and you can right-click the reload button, and you can click this last option here. That will force it to reload from GitHub servers. If that doesn't work, you can also just make a random change, like add a comment or something, and commit that change, and that should also force the servers to reload it. Daniel, that is a website. Cool. Thanks, Treasure Hacks. You're welcome. I'm glad we could help you. Is everyone good on getting the link to their website and seeing the content that they just made? Okay, awesome. I think there's just a couple more things that I want to get over, such as like creating different pages on the website, so you're not just stuck with the homepage. Oh, this is just my editor. Calvin, this is my text editor right here. That's not part of the web page. Yeah, all right. So now that we have that, looks like, yeah, okay, looks like we're all good there. So one of the things is, once I get to creating more pages, let's just copy the code of index. If I create a folder, for example, I'll call this page, or I'll call this, yeah, I'll just call this pages, and then I can actually put another index.html inside of this folder and paste the code here. For this one, I'm going to title this, you can change the document's title within the title tags. So I'll call this pages, and this is a new page. And let's just delete that. So this should look a little bit different. And if I actually go back to my file explorer, I should see this folder, and I should be able to open this. But once I'm getting to another page in here, you can see that the image is completely broken. And that's because in my image, I'm actually pointing to logo.png, which by default, that assumes it's in the same folder, but it's not. So one thing you can do is you can put it in the parent folder like that, with ... and /. Or what we actually want to do is refer it to the root. And the root is basically just /. In our case, if we go to my GitHub website, the root URL would be treasurehacks.github.io. And our images, so this image, I can actually open this in a new tab, but you can see the URL for this image is /github101/logo.png, right? So what we want to do is we want to be able to make it so that our local files behave the same as GitHub server, right? So if we want to refer to /github101/logo.png, we want that to work for both our local and the GitHub website, right? Otherwise, there's going to be too much looking back and forth to see if something's broken or not. So you can see right here, we want the logo to be /github101/logo.png or whatever you want that to be. Sorry if that was a little bit confusing, but you can see that this is our image and it's at github101/logo.png. Since that's what we want it to be, I'm going to paste that in the source. It won't work yet because we haven't done the correct setup, but we want to be able to refer to images relative to the root instead of just in the same folder, right? So we can put it in here. Let's save this for now. And if we go back to 101/pages/index.html, one thing we actually want to do is set the root to the parent folder. Or one thing we want to do is create a local server so we get everything that comes with a normal website as well. You can make requests once you learn, if you decide to learn JavaScript and a bunch of other stuff. It basically, you can't live and reload files forever. So what we're going to do is create a local server within Visual Studio Code. So what we're going to do here is go to extensions on the left. I'm going to click this tab, click extensions, and I'm going to search for live server. It should be the first result. Yeah, apologies if this was a little bit confusing. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, if you see this screen, well, I already installed it, but you should see something like this. and then just go ahead and install it. So once you guys have this installed, go ahead and give a thumbs up in the chat. Does everyone else have it, or are we stuck? Are we all good? If you don't have this live server extension, I do have information on our guide, which I'll give the link to you after this workshop. But in short, what you can do is, well, actually, it might just be better to read the guide since it's a lot more instruction. Can you check my website real quick? I'm up to date on the extension step. Oh, awesome. Yeah, it looks like you have everything on the website. Let's see this image. Okay. Do you have the image in the same folder as your index.html? Okay, yeah, that's why the image doesn't work. Yeah, they have to be somewhere in the folder, so I'm going to open my file browser and set it to this view so you can see. This is what my GitHub 101 looks like. You see there's the pages, there's some index files, and I have the images that I want to use inside the same folder. Good on the extensions. Okay. Okay, yeah. Extension live server. We're going to change one setting because you can see that our websites are at /github101/. So we actually want our local server to be something like localhost port number /github101 as well, right? That way it's the same except for the host name, which is this part of the URL. So what I'm going to do to get there is under live server, I click the gear and extension settings, unselect the text, type in root, and you should see something that says live server settings and root. Could we get a thumbs up when we're all there so that I know when to move on? Okay. Oh yeah, no problem, Anthony. We're just at the extension. I don't know if you got caught up with the extension. Yeah, you have the extension. We just want to go to the extension settings. So right under this gear and extension settings, and then search for unselect the text and then search for root. So you should be searching for something like this. Once you're here, let's go to live server settings root and edit in settings.json. You should see something like this. And this is the line that we want to add in our JSON file. Right here. You can copy and paste this line. I put it in the chat. You can copy and paste that line into your settings.json file. Just put it somewhere within the two curly braces. And if it's the last thing, if it's the last line, just remove the comma as well, because it's the last item in this dictionary. So yeah, once you guys have that, feel free to let me know in chat. Good. The default code when I loaded this up is different to yours. Oh yeah, settings.json will be different for every user. It depends on what settings you set for your editor, different extension settings, different plugin settings, a bunch of stuff. But the only thing that we want that matters right now is that you have this line in here, liveserver.settings.root, and you put ... I also pasted that line in the chat if you need it. Yep, so once everyone has this line, could I get a thumbs up in the chat so we can move on to actually hosting the local server? Okay, awesome. Looks like you guys are all ready. Cool. So actually at the bottom of your editor, you should be able to, there should be something that says live server. I'm not actually seeing it on my own screen for some reason, but I should be able to, if it doesn't show up on the bottom, let's click on live server, disable it, enable it again, see if that works. I don't see it. Okay, well, if you don't see it, you can also do Control-Shift-P or Command on Mac. I think you can do it this way. And we can do open with live server. So do Control-Shift-P or Command-Shift-P and find open with live server. And you should see something like this. And it should actually open this automatically for you. It'll be 127.0.0.1:5500/github101/index.html. And you can actually see, and since it's a local server, instead of just reading files, you can actually get rid of the /index.html, because if you put github101 and you end the URL with a slash, by default, it will read the index file. So this is actually what we see if we go to, if I go to my username.github.io, so treasurehax.github.io/github101, and I add a slash to the end of it, you can see it's the same URL except for the very beginning. Right, so you see treasurehax.github.io versus 127.0.0.1:5500, but everything after it is the same, and that's where we want to be. Okay, if we're all good with that, again, another thumbs up would be appreciated. Thank you for sticking along. We're almost done with this actually. So yeah, this is basically how you can host a website on GitHub. In this case, we're done with our local server part, and it's pretty much up to you to change anything you want after this. So if we actually go to our pages, this is a new file, but this is, so if I go back to my files, you can see it's in a folder called pages, and I have a .index.html file. So /github/101/logo.png should point to the same place. So I'm going to actually go to pages. Oops, that's the remote server. This is the local server, /pages. This will load the index file. And you can see here, the image loads properly, right? So if I actually open the, right click and open the image in a new tab, you'll see localhost 5500 /github201/logo.png, which is what we put here, right? And I'm just going to do one more quick thing. I want to be able to go back between pages without having to type in the URL every time. So I'm just going to add a link element in here so you can link different web pages. Yeah, if you guys have any questions about your web page or need some help with anything, I'll be free to answer questions for a few minutes. But yeah, this is the last thing I'm going to do in here before I push the changes more times. So to add a link, we'll do href equals, and put in quotes the link. Since this is pages, I'll go /github101, which is our repository name, and just end it with a slash. That, and then we'll do that. And this is go to home page. So I'm going to add a link in this one, and if we go to pages, we should actually see, yeah, there's one that called go to home page. And you can see that is the link right here. This is actually the same as if I just typed index.html. It's the same thing. So yeah, either way it works. But I'm going to click go to home page, and you can see that it brings me to my home page at localhost 5500/GitHub101. And just one more thing, I'm going to go back to the first index, which is this one right here outside of the pages folder, and I'm going to add another link in here. I'm going to say, oh, I just want this to be /GitHub101 /pages/index.html. And oh, I forgot to add text inside it. So if you don't add text inside it, there's obviously no link and no text within the link, so you won't be able to see it. This is a secondary page on my website. So once you save it, live server should automatically reload the page, and you can see that there's a link to my second page, right? So you can make any changes you want with these links, anything like that. I just use links as a basic demonstration of these pages. I'll do one more thing. I'll change the title for, I'll call this homepage because it's the homepage. This one I'll just call it whatever. Once we're all there and you have some changes that you're ready to update the remote website with, go ahead and give me a thumbs up in the chat. If anyone is stuck anywhere, again, feel free to put some questions in the chat. I'm looking at that, so if you guys have anything you guys are confused about, feel free to let me know. Is the extension automatically applied? What do you mean by that? I think we installed the extension earlier. Okay, so to turn, you mean how do I turn on the local server? Is that what you mean, Kelvin? Okay, yeah. You might see a button down here. Do you see anything that says go live? Or is it not there, Kelvin? Oh, okay, awesome. It should have opened your browser automatically. Did it not do that? Oh, okay. Yeah, no worries. That's cool. Yeah, it's easy to get lost in tabs. It's definitely easy to lose tabs. There's, yeah. Yeah, if you need to open it again, you can just type 127.0.0.1:5500/ and then your website name. In this case, it's GitHub 101. Yeah, no problem. So you have one person, two people ready to push more changes to their remote website? Or are we all good? Thumbs up if you're ready. If you have any other questions about basic elements like images or links or anything like that for your website, go ahead and ask them. Brian's ready, Anthony's ready. I think Kelvin's ready. Is everyone else good on this? Go live, browser. Yep. Yeah, all right. Looks like a few of you guys are, more of you guys are ready. Great, so just like the first time, we are going to push our changes to the remote with GitHub Desktop. So let's open this, and you should see something like this. If you see something like DS Store, That's something specific for Macs. You can ignore that or discard it, do whatever you want with it. Actually, there's a better way to do that. I'm going to actually create a file called .gitignore. Let's not select pages. Let's go to .gitignore. And what this file does is it can actually tell GitHub Desktop to ignore anything that you want. So in this case, I'm going to ignore anything.ds store. So any unwanted files like that. If you're on a Mac, that's probably what you want to do first. If you're not on a Mac, you don't have to do it, but you can also ignore other files, like if you want placeholder files or just notes to yourself that you don't want to be tracked by GitHub. You can put in like a whole folder name if you want, like notes / anything after that. Or if you want, basically anything that you want to not get changed. If you want, say, anything in any folder that starts with a certain character or something, you can do that with a gitignore file. So in my case, I'm just going to ignore ds store files. So if there is one, GitHub Desktop won't care about that. So yeah, anyways, back to my changes. You can see I have these 3 changes. And once you have these changes, this should look pretty familiar to you. I'm going to describe what I did. I'm going to so one thing with GitHub and version control in general is you want to make your changes as small as possible. So what I'm going to be doing in this case is I'm going to commit these separately. I'm going to uncheck these. This description's fine. Create.gitignore. And then I'm going to say update homepage. Commit that. And then finally, check that one and add a second page. And commit, Control Enter will do it. And you should see something like this. Again, just like the first time, you can push commits to origin and wait for GitHub to do its thing. All right, so I can actually, so this is treasurehacks.github.io. This is from GitHub server. I just pushed my changes. Let's see if they're here. Yep, so you can see this is a secondary page on my website. If I click it, the image will work, and there's a link to go back to my home page. So once you guys have this, go ahead and put an emoji of your choice. It can be a thumbs up. You can put happy face, whatever you want, just to let me know that you have your website working. How long the session? Yeah, I'm pretty much at the end of it. If you guys want to, I'm pretty much just open to questions after this. If you guys are confused or anything, or you want to know how something works. Anthony, that's not an emoji, but cool. Yeah, that's really it. So that's everything, all the basics of hosting your first website on GitHub. And you can actually already share this URL with anybody that you know if you just want to show them a website. You can add content to it. If you're working with somebody in a team and you want to make a web page for it, some of your information, you can add that in the website and host it on GitHub. And when you submit it, we'll be able to see the website, all that cool stuff. So now you know how to have a website just for you. All of your code, you know how to code a website or the very basics of it, and host it on GitHub, share it with anyone. That being said, that brings us to the end of this workshop. I'll be staying behind for any questions, but if you guys are all good to go, then feel free to log out, and we'll see you in some future events and for the closing ceremony. Thank you so much for coming. Also, I'll allow you guys to unmute yourselves and ask questions, so that you guys, I'll let you unmute yourselves so you can ask questions directly instead of having to type them in chat. And yeah, I'll end the YouTube stream here so that you guys can rewatch it later.